Good afternoon. Thank you, Jordan, so much for that, that introduction. Actually, it was the perfect themes to talk about to lead us into this conversation. Just a quick show of hands, since it is New Front Week. How many of you were actually at the Hulu New Front this morning? Yeah, great. So a lot of you, it looks like. I was as well. I thought it was a lot of fun. And they mentioned a couple of stats that I thought I wanted to just reiterate, bring up here. As Jordan just pointed out, Hulu came about in 2007, and they were purely a desktop company at that point. You could only really watch Hulu on the web. Today, many years later, 61% of Hulu viewing is happening off of desktop. So it's happening in mobile, and it's happening in connected TV. And so I thought that was a nice lead-in to talk about connected TV. They also, they really are now becoming more of a TV company. In fact, they called their new front the upfront. So TV and digital, these lines are blurring. Content content across devices is also, causing this all to blur. Yes, from an execution standpoint, it's still very difficult, but at Xaxis, we're thinking about how to address these challenges. So what we'll talk about today in this short period is a few different things. First, just what's happening in the living room. We'll take a look at different trends. I'll take a crack at defining what is connected TV. There's a lot of lingo and jargon in this space, so I'll give you my point of view. And we'll also talk about the benefits of connected TV, why we think that this is a place that marketers and brands should be considering in terms of the investment of their dollars. And finally, we'll talk about the realities, because it's not all sunshine and roses. And I'll give you a perspective of what we're seeing, what our challenges are in connected TV today. So what's happening in the living room? In 1980, this is a look at the top-rated programs. So some of you may have, this may be a walk down memory lane for some of you, and some of you might not have any idea what any of these shows are. So the top 5 rated programs accounted for 33% of the total viewing audience, the total TV viewing audience. So that's massive. Really just investing in a couple of different programs, the top ones, you would get massive reach. And you can see all of these had over 25% of the TV audience watching them. Fast forward to 2014, the top rated programs account for only 16% of total audience. So TV, it's becoming much more difficult to, or has become much more difficult to get that same broad reach. Now, no doubt 16% is still very, very high. TV is certainly a reach vehicle, but when you compare where we were in 1980 to where we are in 2014, 2015, it's a big difference. So it's about halved. And so really that brings us to this question, why has this happened? There's really 2 drivers to distill it at a very sort of simplistic level. The first is consumers just have more choice. In 1980, there were only about 9 channels. Today, there's on average 194. So simply to get that sort of share is much more difficult because there's so many other choices that consumers have, so many programs that they can choose from. So TV is increasingly fragmented. There's many, many, many choices. So it's difficult to get that same broad reach with just a few programs or just a few networks. This is a chart. There's a lot going on here, but I think you can see with the big red drop-offs. I'll just walk you through it a little bit. This is from Nielsen. This is all Nielsen data. It shows primetime viewing during primetime viewing, so that's 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. The changes in the size of TV audiences across different demo groups. So you can see in 2011, 2012, there were drop-offs in the size of the TV audience among the younger populations, people under 24 years old. But the audiences certainly above 35 years old, there was no change, there was no drop-off. In fact, some of the older groups grew slightly. But in 2013, 2014, something pretty remarkable happened. Two things. One, you can see, if you look at the 18 to 24 group, a massive acceleration of the drop-off. It started to basically double. So what this says is audiences are shrinking faster. And you also saw another thing, which was that in the older demos, you started to see a drop off, which is something new. So when we had talked about TV and the future of TV in the last 5 years, it was always a trend that we saw happening in the younger sort of demos. And now it's undeniable that it is happening across the older audiences as well. So, the question is, where have all the viewers gone? It turns out that they're watching, people in general, this is another Nielsen chart, are not watching less video content. They're actually watching slightly more video content in 2014 over 2013. The difference is that they're watching it in many other places. They're watching it on their tablets, their smartphones, over-the-top devices, which is often used synonymously with connected TV. And so, online video is not shrinking. People are not watching less media; they're watching more. And so, let's take a look actually at the different devices and look at how these are each growing. So Jordan mentioned, growth of 14%, which is consistent with what we've seen in our data. That desktop and laptop video ad viewing has grown at a rate of 14% year over year. And this is according to a report put out by Freewheel. You also see tablets growing at 14%. Those are no small numbers. Smartphone is growing at a rate of 70%, so pretty quickly. But connected TV is having a breakout, essentially. In the last 2 quarters, connected TV ad viewing, so this is views on ads happening, not the penetration of connected TVs in the household, but the actual ad views are growing at a rate of 236% each year. And that's been consistently, that's actually getting faster and faster if you look quarter to quarter. So connected TVs are certainly expanding opportunities for marketers. You can still see that if you look at the share of viewing across different devices, connected TV is still a small portion, but it's a growing portion. So you've got desktop and laptop that still make up about 70% of video ad views. So this is ad viewing outside of the television. And then smartphone making up 15%, followed by connected TV, and then tablet leading it at the end. But at these rates of growth, at rates of growth of over 25%, 236%, no doubt connected TV ad viewing will surpass smartphone by the end of this year, most likely, and we expect it just to continue to grow. And we're seeing this across publishers. We're seeing this, sort of across the entire ecosystem. And certainly, as just a nod to the new fronts and some of the original programming that was sort of unveiled today at the upfronts and throughout the rest of this week. There's more investment in these environments. There's more content to be seen. So it's a very exciting space. So, here's a just quick look at what is connected TV, because there are a lot of sort of phrases that we throw around. So here's my crack at it. A lot of the market has been calling it over the top as synonymous. But for me, connected TV is a couple of things. It's the device. So it can either be a smart TV, so a TV that is internet enabled. Think the LG TV or the Samsung Smart TV, and that's just the device that's connected to the internet. And when you turn your TV on, you have a portal, and you can then watch content through the screen. You can also have any other multimedia device, like Apple TV, like Roku, like Xbox. And that's what I think of typically as over-the-top, but that space has grown so much that we've started to use over-the-top as synonymous with connected TV. And then you also have gaming consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, etc. But within those, what really matters are the apps. That's the content. Those are the channels in this environment. So you've got different content apps. And when you think about buying advertising in our ecosystem, you can either buy from deals with Samsung or with deals with anybody on this slide, really, the device, the TV, or the content itself. And so, at Xaxis, we're working across the entire ecosystem here. And what does it look like? I mean, essentially, this is an example in the Crackle app where a user wants to watch an episode of Mad Men. And so essentially they, click on, the watch the first episode. And what happens is before the episode plays, there's an ad that takes over the full screen. So it's a very, it's not a TV-like experience. It's TV. It's a TV experience. It's on the television screen. So you get that full, that full view. And another thing that I think is interesting about connected TV is that a lot of the viewing is happening within long-form content, which is different than video consumption across other devices, and it makes it a far more compelling platform. So you can see this chart shows the percent of ads that are shown against sort of various lengths of content. So you can see in the desktop environment, 70% of ads are shown within short form content. So this is content, less than 20 minutes is what this chart shows, but we all know in desktop you're often dealing with content that's far shorter than that. Think news clips, etc. So smartphone is about the same. Tablet, you can start to see that 54% of video ad views are happening within long-form content. And then connected TV, you see it's a breakaway. 91% of ads are within long-form content within connected TV of 20 minutes or more. So this is really a full episode experience. This is not, short clips, but we're talking about people who are in for the long haul, people who are going to watch an entire program. So it's it's not a TV-like experience. It's TV. Let's talk about some of the benefits of connected TV. As I mentioned, it's TV-like, so we've got this full screen experience taking over the entire screen. The TV obviously only allows for one activity, so unlike a browser, unlike when you're in your computer, you can't have Outlook on top of the browser or anything else going on. You have that person's full attention. Additionally, it's all above the fold because the fold just doesn't exist. There is no other option. And it's obviously 100% viewable. Although we don't have the same metrics in connected TV around viewability, we know that just by nature of the form factor, it is viewable. And finally, FAP engagement. So this is really, as I mentioned before, a full episode experience. So it gives more opportunities to allow brands to have a more engaged user and create a more emotional connection with the user who's watching the content. So it's still early days in connected TV. From a programmatic perspective, there's a lot we need to be doing. There's a lot of hurdles we need to overcome. So, the first part of this presentation was about, talking about why it's a great opportunity, why it's something that we should be thinking about. Now I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the challenges that we're facing. And there's a lot on this slide, so I apologize. But essentially, you can bucket it in three areas. We have measurement challenges, we have targeting challenges, and just basic delivery. So simple things like frequency capping is one example. So measurement, this is a work in progress. In desktop, in mobile, and obviously in television, we can measure in terms of GRPs. Nielsen, ComScore measure this for us, and we know how many men 18 to 34, for example, we've reached, and how frequently we've reached them, so we can calculate a GRP. It's fairly simple. In connected TV, this is still very difficult. In fact, it's very difficult just to measure simple things like unique reach. How many impressions did a single user see? You can do this when you're buying across a single publisher or a single device, but unless you're working with someone who's done some of the heavy lifting in the background, which thankfully we have, it's very difficult to get that unique impression count, as well as to map it back to a demo. So Nielsen is working on this. Nielsen is developing in the next few months. They'll be launching OCR for connected TV, except, and that's great. That's a wonderful first step, and it's a needed first step. As you can see in all the stats, it's such a growth area that we need to be focusing on this as an industry. But there's still more we need to do because it's not mapping back to demos. So it's hard to get a view on GRPs still. Additionally, targeting is a challenge, especially in an environment that we're used to dealing with in desktop, which is very cookie-driven. There are no cookies in connected TV, so it still presents a similar challenge as we face in mobile. We figured it out in mobile. We'll figure it out in connected TV, but it's something that is a work in progress. And you know, other sort of features that we would normally have, like geo-targeting and channel targeting, this is all coming together now, today. It's something that we're working on. And so these limitations, not to be a sort of Debbie Downer, but you know, I wanted to approach this more from an educational standpoint and give you information that you can use in your day-to-day rather than approach it as a sales pitch. These are limitations that are being worked on by everyone in the ecosystem, by Nielsen, by the devices like Roku, by Xaxis. This is top of mind for everyone, and we are, as I mentioned, we are figuring it out through deeper integrations together so that we can share more information back and forth. So the ideal connected TV advertiser is someone who's willing to jump into this, who sees the value, who sees the growth, and wants to be at the leading edge. Especially, again, given that growth, given the amount of adoption that this has had. Someone who is also going after broad targets rather than very, very, very focused targets. More, who's looking more at a reach play. And yeah, people who are looking for incremental reach. To find audiences when you see that drop off that I showed in one of those earlier charts. People who are looking to actually find those audiences where they're watching content. And they're watching that content on connected TV. So in summary, this is an area that we really all, as an industry, should be paying attention to and investing in, if that means investing 5%, 10% of budgets to learn, because the growth, as I mentioned, is undeniable. At these growth rates, it will surpass certainly the smartphone penetration. So we talk a lot about mobile video. It's an important growth area. Connected TV is even more important.